We are across from the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, where Pope Francis has just celebrated an outdoor Mass for 25,000. He has come to tend to the hearts and souls of millions of Catholics, including this young girl who touched the Pope's heart. On his first full day here, Francis met controversy head-on, from climate change to sex abuse by priests. He raised immigration in his very first sentence, wiping away the borders of the hemisphere. He said he came to the United States in the name of all Americans. Norah O'Donnell begins our coverage.
Tens of thousands gathered along Constitution Avenue to catch a glimpse of Francis, the People's Pope, who stopped along the way to embrace small children and bask in the glow of his first American audience. He began his day greeting school kids gathered outside of his sleeping quarters, taking time for handshakes and hugs. Then His Holiness, in all his humility, drove in a small Fiat 500 to an elaborate White House ceremony, where he was welcomed by the President, Mrs. Obama, and 11,000 ticketed guests.
I should explain that our backyard is not typically this crowded. In your humility, we see a living example of Jesus' teachings, a leader whose moral authority comes not just through words, but also through deeds.
The Holy Father drew upon that moral authority to address issues more political than pastoral, like immigration and climate change.
As the son of an immigrant family, I'm happy to be a guest in this country, which was largely built by such families. Mr. President, I find it encouraging that you are proposing an initiative for reducing air pollution.
It was then on to the Cathedral of St. Matthew the Apostle for a Mass in Spanish with 280 bishops. And for the first time in his visit, he spoke about one of Catholicism's darkest chapters, the sexual abuse of children by American clergy. He never addressed the victims directly, but vowed, quote, to ensure that such crimes will never be repeated.
And Scott, it was extraordinary to hear the Pope today here at the White House call on the world to address climate change. And in doing so, he invoked Martin Luther King, and he referenced his "I Have a Dream" speech. He used the same phrase as King, quote unquote, defaulting on a promissory note and saying that now is the time to honor it. And Scott, we understand His Holiness will again wade into controversial policy issues when he addresses a joint meeting of Congress tomorrow, the first Pope in history to do so.
And Norah, you'll be right here covering that historic event in Washington on CBS this morning. Thanks very much for your coverage tonight.